Hi, so this is a reading for somebody who's been through an extreme situation, extreme circumstances. This person, I will just really quickly say before I get into it, was hardened by a situation that most people don't even have to think about. And so, fair warning, this reading is a bit heavy. A bit might be an understatement to some people, depending on where you are at when it comes to healing past trauma and thinking about some very difficult things. But there are some messages here that do come through that I do think are meaningful even in such difficult circumstances or having experienced such difficult experiences. So, I'm going to start out by telling you about a dream that I had. And this dream, when I clarified later, isn't necessarily about you. This dream is related to this reading for you. And it's going to make sense when I tell you all about it. I've already done a recording for this, but the sound quality was really bad, and I was in a really bad place after this came through. So I just decided to re record it again a few weeks later. So let's get into it. This dream that I had, as it relates to a message for you, I believe is describing how your trauma affected you. And it's in a dream. I was forced to jump off of a rooftop by a crazy kind of, and I don't mean crazy, but well, for some of you, maybe this person definitely would be mentally unstable in some capacity. But this person, especially, was very abusive. This is a partner, and in the dream, it started out with me being forced to jump off of a rooftop, as in, they forced me to, they were trying to force me to unalive myself. And do bear with me, obviously, this is a dream, so there are some parts that don't exactly make logical sense in the sense of how physical reality works. This person went to check to make sure that I did not survive after the fall. And when they saw that I wasn't moving and I guess just seemed to have not made it, they eventually left. And I waited until I was sure that they were gone, and I got away. Because they thought I was dead, and now I was on the run. So there are a couple of things that happened after, and there are also details that are important for some reason. One of the details that's important is that I had cash with me when I was on the run. Another detail that's very uncomfortable to relay but felt important is that there was a gory element to the dream where after the fall there was a bone protruding from my back. I was also trying to protect a younger sibling, and my parents or family did not believe me about what happened when I was trying to reach out to them for help. And in the end, a friend hid me in what, I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this or a lot of things that I'm saying in this video, but it was a drug den specifically. I don't really want to censor this. I don't really, I hope it doesn't get taken down, but otherwise, I want to just relay what the symbolism was very clearly, especially what I remember, and this was really important, and I didn't even write this down. But from memory, what was really important about where I was hidden was that this den was made up of very dark passageways through, let's say, this brush or bushes. and everything was complete darkness. And it's made something click for me, which I'll tell you about later. But everything was complete darkness, and there were these passageways, let's say, that you had to pay or have some kind of, I don't know, badge to be able to enter or go through to the next part of the den. It's very hard to kind of describe, but it's kind of like these sort of like large bushes that cover a really large area, and they just have different parts to them where people reside or people do some kind of business. And my friend was a part of this network that was running, or a part of the group that was running this network. And so she gave me a way through, a passageway, so that I could go through these different areas kind of without having to pay, and also while being undetected. And it was just this kind of cover that actually ended up saving my life, because I was able to hide for a while completely undetected. I guess I would say in this case, obviously looking back on it, you're able to avoid any kind of law enforcement, so you essentially kind of like disappear off the grid for a while. And afterwards, after I had spent some time there, I was able to leave the country with some of this cash that I had held on to. What's important about the cash itself is that I remember there was a coin that stood out to me, and when I woke up, I didn't know what currency it was when I looked back on it. So to me, that represents that this was some kind of foreign currency. But what was important was that I specifically carved a ballerina into the coin, and the coin supposedly had some kind of high value. And the reason that I did this was because I, in the dream, said that I couldn't be accused of stealing the abuser's money, because when I carved the ballerina into it, it made the coin's value disappear. And in the dream, I knew that this abuser wasn't smart enough to figure that out. And I was banking on the fact that they would figure that the ballerina belonged on the coin. So that might mean something to you. Let's move on. There are some details about the state I was in after I woke up that I thought were pretty important to relate to you, because it might help describe the ways that these events that are symbolic in the dream, how they affected you. So one of the important things was that when I woke up, my nervous system was completely shaken, and I was just kind of in a perpetual state of fear and discomfort. My lip was completely cracked and bloody. And that was a really strange thing, because I had, particularly the night before, taken extra care of my lips before bed. I had hydrated the day before, and also this just never happens. I don't wake up with just a completely cracked, bloody lip like that. And when I pulled back my curtains that morning, the light outside looked very gray, and I was weary of it. I was almost suspicious of the light. And when I was saying that the drug den being dark, being important, how that kind of connects back to things, it clicked in for me as I was saying that, because the light that morning after I woke up from the dream, it made me scared. It made me feel scared of who might find me. And I realized that it feels safer to be in the dark. So maybe some of you might associate a certain thing. It might not be darkness specifically, but some of you maybe, like, this is an example that can make sense, where something that helped you escape a dangerous situation that might not necessarily or normally be associated with a feeling of safety, that might be something that actually does make you feel safe. For me, that was darkness because I think that in the dream, the den also was what saved my life, and the den was just complete darkness at all times. But yeah, otherwise, just the light of the day made me scared that, it made me question if somebody could find me who I was trying to hide from. And there was a really strange thing where the smell of coconut oil specifically made me extremely nauseous. So I'm not sure if that means anything to anybody, but I felt like I should include all the details because for whoever this is, these would be extra confirmations. I was also very clumsy. And when I heard my neighbors and other people kind of just going about their regular day and regular routine, it felt absurd because I had had this experience and I didn't know how to live in the normal or what other people's perceived normal is. Um, Also, the sound of cabinets, like kitchen cabinets, for example, closing, was so loud that the sound was painful to hear to the point that it was causing me to be nauseous. My jaw was clenching, I had tension in my body, and the one of the only things that comforted me was my cat sitting in my lap. That was extremely comforting for me. And also, and that I thought to mention that if some of you were thinking of getting a cat or especially a cat, but maybe a pet, a companion in general, I would say that would be of extreme comfort to you, and I would definitely say this is a sign that that would be something helpful. Um, and another detail is that after this dream, I also kept thinking of this documentary I saw about the LA tunnel, where in short, as quickly as I can sum it up so you kind of understand, there's this tunnel system in LA. Where is it? This is so strange. I'm having trouble remembering now if it's LA or if it's Las Vegas, which is Nevada, so that's a different state. I think it might actually be Las Vegas. But essentially, the tunnel is right next to or right under these very um, wealthy, opulent places, and the tunnel itself it's all in complete darkness, and there's people who have gone off grid or off the system, but who hide there. Maybe they might. Some of them were trying to get away from the law. Others just had lost everything they had, and this is where they ended up. This was a place of safety for them, away from like police officers, law enforcement that would try to put them in jail or mistreat them for not having an ID. Some of them couldn't get an ID after losing it, etc. There were essentially a lot of people who had lost everything they ever had before their life in the tunnels. Um, so that to me signified that the person that this reading is for might be someone who had experienced being without a home, experienced homelessness. It could also indicate that this event caused them to lose everything they had or caused them entirely to lose a life that they once had. Um, so when I was asking about the dream and whether it is about somebody, I was told specifically it's related to a reading for someone. It's related to a reading for someone who needs to allow themselves to receive healing because they are still reliving the events of the past and they are hyper vigilant. And this person, as in you, who I'm speaking to, you may have convinced yourself that, and this may or may not be, this is likely not a conscious thing, but there is some kind of truth that is believed that if you stop being hypervigilant, then whatever or whoever you got away from will get you or will catch up to you. Because again, like I was on the run, it's almost like I need to make sure to outrun this person or this event or this thing that happened that I got away from. And I see 4444 on my timer as I say that. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm not sure why, because that adds up, that sums up to 7. I will say that the fourth sphere on the tree of life, on the Hermetic tree of life, is Jupiter, and the seventh sphere is Venus. And those are the two benefics. They are the most lucky planets. And I'm not sure why I saw that right when I said that. Um, Maybe some of you might feel like it's pure luck that you got away, but what I'm going to tell you next or soon is actually going to refute that. And if that's not how you feel about it, then I do feel like there is just some kind of benefic or protective energy when it comes to letting go of this hypervigilance, which definitely makes sense with what Spirit had to say about this. And again, or rather, before I go on, I do want to say I understand you can't just let go of hypervigilance. It's a nervous system response. But there is something about, I think, a belief or a decision to move toward healing the nervous system in order to get there, in order to be able to release that state of hypervigilance that is important here. So when I shuffled some cards for you, when I did the recording, the sound quality was just absurdly bad. So I'm going to go back to what came through before, and I'm going to let you know what cards came out. I have them out again in order to just remind myself, and also I have notes about everything. I've listened to the recording, so I know exactly what was said. So I'm just going to relate to you what happened with the cards and what the message that came through for you is. So during the reading, I was asking myself, what do I need to tell you regarding this situation that could be of use or helpful to you? And as I was thinking about that, I was shuffling the cards and I was staring at the time, and it was 11:10 a.m. And for me, 11:10 always means something is about to be granted, like a wish come true. And I was shuffling, and as I was shuffling, the time turned to 11:11, and the Chariot came out. And I had this feeling that something will be granted to you to aid or help you in this situation. I immediately remembered that the one who rides the chariot is the one who fights in the war. So for some of you, this could be literal, that you've had an experience of war, or your country has gone through war, or is currently in a state of being invaded, let's say, or maybe invading. Take what resonates for you. What came out next was a Page of Swords. And I knew that it was signifying that you will cut through an illusion that was created by extreme fear. And this extreme fear was instilled in you by what happened in the past. And it's something that you have every reason to be severely affected by. It's hard to imagine that somebody wouldn't be affected by anything that was sort of symbolized or signified by what I went through in that dream. So the star came out after, and what's interesting is that I remembered immediately that the star comes after the tower, and I heard in my head, the healing will be granted. And it's a very strange way to phrase that. I wouldn't phrase that myself in this exact way. I would say something like, you will be granted healing, or you will receive healing. You will go through a healing that will put you on a different trajectory in your mind and help you overcome this. But I heard specifically, the healing will be granted. And what's interesting is I wanted to confirm if what I was hearing or if what I was thinking about it was true. And the Ace of Cups came out. And what's interesting about that is that when I was asking about aftercare regarding this reading because my own nervous system was really rattled by the dream, but by just having a dream that I described to you. Um, the aftercare that I was asking about was actually signified by the Ace of Cups card. So this confirmed for me, especially next to the star, that you will be granted some kind of healing. You will be granted healing through some kind of deep clarity about previously held beliefs. Then I asked, what truth do you need to know? And I'm not sure why. I guess I asked this because it was talking about some kind of untruth, some kind of lack of clarity. So I asked, what truth do you need to know? And I got the Ace of Swords reversed. And immediately in my head, I was thinking, because the Ace of Swords does represent truth, it represents ultimate clarity, especially in this deck. It's embedded in the ground, but the ground is covered by snow, and it's this crisp, cold kind of setting, which makes me think of, when you splash cold water on your face and you kind of are hit with this rush of clarity and being very present in your environment and very mentally awake. And what is interesting is that the Strength card with the Queen of Wands came out together right after that. And when I was in the dream, after the person, so when I was in the dream and even after I woke up, you, the person who I was whose experience in some way I was meant to experience, briefly, in order to kind of understand some symbolism and to know what it is that you need to know or what I need to ask for you. I was experiencing, you came through, like the energy that it came through for me was extremely tough. And I wanted to add as a side note that I always thought that I was an extremely tough person myself. And the person that was coming through, this energy, your energy, it's a different level of toughness than anything I've personally come face to face with, than anything I've known or anybody I've read for. This person, as in you, whenever this person had the urge to cry, they would almost shake themselves into their strength and tell themselves they need to snap out of it and keep going. But I have this understanding that they did this because they had to. It's like you didn't have a choice but to be this strong due to your circumstances. So it felt more like, rather than strength, it felt almost like a hardness. Like you're a hardened person, hardened by extreme circumstances and events that many people will never even have to think about in their lifetime, let alone experience. So there's also something important about the fact that while you know that you are strong, this past experience, like what this past experience represents or presents, is being identified by your nervous system as a threat, and a threat that is currently here. And even though it isn't a threat anymore, because you did get away from whatever this trauma was or from whoever caused it, you did overcome that, you outsmarted them. There's something about the fact that your nervous system is signaling to you that there still is a threat here, right now. And again, it kept going back to your strength. And what I was seeing was somebody punching a tree trunk. And then I also was seeing in my mind, I don't know if you know about it, it might be worth looking up if you're interested, but I was seeing iron body training that Shaolin monks do, which is it's an extremely advanced form of Shaolin monk training, martial arts training. Um, and I believe there are one of the parts. It has multiple parts, but one of the parts is that they hit their own body or cause sudden force onto their body with different objects. Um, so I don't know if this is far fetched, but think of somebody hitting themselves with a brick and it does nothing to their body because it's an iron body. And this is the kind of imagery that was shown to me to kind of relate how hard and how extremely um, resilient your strength is. That there's it goes back to that Ace of Swords reversed, where it says that the lie here is thinking that you're not tough enough, thinking that you're not strong enough to overcome something, perhaps this trauma specifically. And not only is that so far from the truth, because of obviously what I just talked about, how much your strength is emphasized. Um, but it's not even about toughness. It's not even about strength when it comes to this trauma. Because the way through is actually, oh, it's interesting. I didn't think that I would get emotional again when going back to this, and I'm literally like a minute away from being done with this. But when I read this part of the note, I don't know why, but it just made me tear up. But the way through is actually in allowing, in softening, and there was something very specific. I remember when I first did the reading, I recall that the word allowing was extremely emphasized for you. It's about allowing the healing, it's about allowing yourself to soften. And I think that's because there's a lot about how the nervous system will be very tense. The body will get very tense when it feels like it's in danger, and that threat is gone. So there's something about allowing yourself to be soft rather than hypervigilant that's going to be important. There's going to be something about allowing yourself to be soft and maybe even allowing yourself to cry. I think definitely allowing yourself to cry. And I think there's a lot about how, as far as I know in my own experiences, is that your body almost doesn't allow you to release in that way unless you're safe. So there's this counterintuitive effect of when you do feel safe again after a period of prolonged effects of trauma, there can be this counterintuitive effect of you actually crying when you do feel safe, or crying when you do feel happy around or safe around somebody, because you finally feel safe enough to be vulnerable in that way. So I just wanted to add that. And there's something that you need to know. It's that, and I specifically heard this, and I heard you are the threat. So you're the one that whatever or whoever tried to get you should be afraid of. And when I was doing this reading before, I asked if there's anything else I need to tell you, and the Eight of Wands came out reversed. So the Eight of Wands is about fast communication, among other things. So that to me was so clear that that's all you need to know. And when I went back and wrote all these notes down after re-listening to it. I asked for confirmation and I got the Eight of Pentacles confirming to leave it at that. And what's so interesting, and I think I'll actually include the imagery in the thumbnail for you. The Eight of Pentacles in this deck that I used today is of somebody actually holding a pouch of coins, or it looks like a pouch for coins. You can't see inside it. It's kind of a bit mysterious, I guess, in that way, but it looks exactly like a coin purse. So I'm going to leave it there. And I'm sending you all the good energy possible. And I know you're going to get through this. So if if your mind ever plays tricks on you, just come back to the truths that have been presented here for you. And I do have a feeling that I might speak to you again. So do take care of yourself.